All right, welcome to this episode of Good Morning Mama. Today we are with Amanda Sellers, and she is the mama of the Sellers Dozen. And Chelsea and I have gotten to know her over the past few months, and we have really enjoyed getting to know she and her husband, Chris. And we see their kids jump in and out whenever we talk to them, and they're just a precious family. And I'm so excited to talk to them today. So let's get started.
Welcome to Good Morning Mama. We're two instant best friends with a combined 13 children, ages newborn to 16, talk about all things motherhood. Our new mom versus seasoned mom dynamic will leave you laughing, and our Christian values and positive outlooks will leave you inspired. So grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and enjoy our visit.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad to be here.
Good. Well, thank you for
We're so glad
joining
to
us.
have you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you are so fascinating. Chelsea and I know a lot about you, but our audience may not. So give us just the bullet points or the overview of who you are and tell us about your unique family and tell us about your babies too.
Yeah, so I'm Amanda Sellers. I have 10 kids with 2 on the way. We are in our 3rd trimester with our 4th set of twins.
Amazing.
We have all ages from 1 to 15 currently, and we are about to max out our 15 passenger van. We're getting really close. So we started doing social media and just doing life together as a family and recording it. And so that's kind of the gist of our situation right now. We love.
I love following you. Karla, I think you followed Amanda for a while too. I have
Yes.
really enjoyed watching your content. And you guys homeschool?
Yes.
You do like your homesteading stuff. Like you've showed us a lot of like your healthy eating, you super high protein. You've been like letting everybody know about your pregnancies and everything, right?
Yes, for
So
sure.
interesting.
We just really love like kind of getting to show the positive side of what large family life is like. And I know Karla, you know all about this
I
because
can relate. Yeah.
yeah. So just whatever adventures we get to go on, we love sharing about it and growing as a family.
Yeah.
I know you get asked this a lot, but do twins run in your family?
So twins have to run on the mom's side, and that's genetically how it's supposed to work. So we have way up there the line somewhere. I had a set of twins, married a set of twins, but I think they were
No.
yeah, and just way up there. So other than that, they were just a surprise.
Wow. And then 4 times over. I mean, were you every single time you found out that you were expecting twins, were you kind of like expecting it at that point because you've already had several sets, or were you like every time just like, whoa, this is amazing? Or tell us about that, finding out you're expecting multiple sets of twins.
For sure. Well, so the first time around, I kind of just had a hunch and I didn't know what, there was no reason to think that. I had singleton birth, and then just the next time they said it was twins, and I was like, I knew it. That's literally what I yelled. They were like, why? I'm like, I don't know.
Because
So
you
the
felt really
second
big
time
and
around,
really hungry.
I had back-to-back. Yeah, and yeah, so hungry, so nauseous, yeah, all of that. But the very next pregnancy was twins also. And that time I felt like the symptoms were there. It was just really easy to like tell. So that one was really fun because the doctor, the ultrasound tech was checking, and the nurse goes, this was the first time, and the nurse goes, "What is that?" And Chris goes, "That's twins." And they were all just like, "What?"
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I thought it was so hilarious that Chris got to be the one to tell them that it was, of course, the doctor was like, "Yep, that's twins."
That's funny.
I've actually never had back-to-back singletons. I've had
That's interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
They lined out each time. It was singleton, twins, singleton, twins, singleton, twins. So yeah, no back-to-back singletons.
That's
So
amazing.
how do do you see a difference in sibling bonds, or because they are in such like close age and proximity, it just is.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good point because they're homeschooled, so they're here all the time. They're
Yeah.
all together. I would say I'm watching them play outside. That's what I'm looking at, trying to
That's
assess
okay.
bonds. But I would say there is a connection specifically between like my girl twins and my boy twins. You can see it. They all like to still sleep together and that kind of stuff. But I just really feel like they're all so tight.
Yeah.
There are some other bonds that are so close you would think they're twins, but they're not. They're just really close. So
Are your twins identical?
no, all of mine are fraternal.
Okay.
So they're called diamniotic dichorionic, which means they each have their own amniotic sac and placenta,
Okay.
which is the safest twin pregnancy you can have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So far mine have been same gender, which is actually less common.
Yeah.
And that is the case this time too. We're having same gender boys, 2 boys.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. I was
Wow,
hoping for a
that's so
girl,
cool.
but that's okay.
So when you name your children and your twins, how do you guys come up with all your names? Because I get asked that a lot, and we don't have twins, but do you do anything differently for the twins than for the others, or how do you name your children?
Um, a lot of prayer, a whole lot of
Yeah.
conversation. I always feel like I'm like running out of names. Like I can't
I know.
land on things that, I kind of feel like all of ours flow really well. So a lot of times
Yeah.
practicing names, like I'll say the
All
whole
of them.
clues together. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
With twins, a lot of times there's like a balance between what's going to be socially acceptable, like what the kids are going to, one day they're going to be adults and they're not going to be together their whole lives. So
Yeah.
how
So
they're
Sunny and Rocket aren't going to be.
I think they're perfect, but we might work on that one. Maybe for sure nicknames, like those are perfect. But
Yeah.
we also so with the girls the first time, every name I picked, my husband was just like, nope, 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 that's not the one. And then one day I don't even know where it came from, but Mia and Maya came to mind. And so I asked him, he's like, oh yeah, absolutely.
That was it.
Yeah. And so then he immediately was like, how about Maya Grace and Mia Faith?
I
Oh,
love that.
That's perfect. And
there they are.
yep. So
That's cool. Sometimes it just hits you and you're like, that's the name. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you guys are also unique in that you and your husband both do your social media together. And I think that is so neat because you're literally together with your whole family all the time and running your online business together. And that's just very unique. And I know a lot of couples aspire to have that situation. So, what would you say to a family who is hoping to, do what you're doing and raise your children at home and homeschool them and also have your husband join you on your social media?
yeah, so I would say that setting goals is such a huge and important thing that sometimes you just stumble into really awesome things in life, but a lot of times it's a slow and consistent daily work that gets you to a place that you want to be. When we first started growing our family, we literally went from 3 to 5 to 7 kids within 2 years. So
Oh my
No.
the growth was so fast.
I bet
How'd
that
you
makes you
do
feel
it?
better, Chelsea.
Yeah, because for me, I have 3 under 2.5, and I think that's a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I give up. I give it.
We literally after the second set of twins was born, we had 5 of our kids were under the age of 3. And it
Wow.
was a lot of diapers. And I don't remember a lot of that time because it was
I
just
bet
like a
big
whirlwind
blur.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're always busy. Like
Yes.
to be able to do this takes a lot of planning.
Yeah.
Right,
A lot of the things that we ended up working into kind of came out of necessity. It was, my husband's working. So if my kids are going to school, I either stick them on a school bus or I am loading up all of those babies and taking my oldest ones to school.
Oh, yeah.
Things became too much and I could tell that they were too much for our home and for myself. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, well, let's see what homeschooling looks like. And we did some online stuff. Hi, buddy. And we, after Julian says hi.
Hi.
After that, after doing some online stuff, at that point we were like, well, we're home all the time. We can, as far as online schooling, we can have some animals now that we're here all the time. So we started doing some farming stuff on top of that, and those things just kind of grew. Baby, come here. Oh, you want a snack? He just wants a snack.
Yeah.
So yeah, so just long story short, just that we saw the gaps in our family dynamic, the places that we didn't like. We didn't like that Chris worked so much. He was working nights at the time. So it was setting goals of getting him to day shift. Yes. And I was doing school for myself at the time, and I was working part-time job over here. So just a lot of things that separated our family.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of looked at those things. They were high stress, so it was easy to recognize which ones were the problem. And we started discussing like what steps can we take to move away from these high stress points and make our life more like we want it to look. And so just over the last 5-6 years, I'd say, we've kind of just taken whatever steps it took. And sometimes that meant doing things we didn't want to do, or, paying off a ton of debt, or things that were hard grown-up stuff at some points, but had a huge impact on our household, because less debt meant less time my husband had to be away working, or, those kinds of things. Yeah.
That's really cool. So now you guys are in a place where you're able to create digital content, make an income doing that. You have some online businesses that are in the works and starting with us, which we are so proud of you and love your new Christmas collection. And you were talking about going to school. You went to school for lactation consulting. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I've done stuff all over the place. I originally was a missions major. Missions was really important to me. I wanted to do that in life.
Wanted to get to that. Yes, I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah,
mission trips with all your kids.
Yeah.
So from missions major, I transitioned into social work and did some courses for that. I also did a full EMT training with the intention of doing medical work or medical missions at some point. And finalized that. And then that was all before our first set of twins, I think. So after that point, I stepped back from school. Chris stepped into school. He did business, which has been great, having his business background and business management kinds of things, just his understanding of those things. And then after that, I did lactation consultant and some other things that I did not finalize, but other things to do with birth and doula and things like that. So definitely have a passion for all things.
Tell us about your heart for social impact and your experience with mission trips and including your family. That is so interesting.
Yeah, I think just genuinely growing up, I had this crazy dream of just living a life that was so big and so bold that it could only be God. That could only be the answer of how are we doing it? How is this happening? That was kind of the goal. So through that, I've just kind of been wide open to allowing God to use my life. And with that, partnered with a wonderful husband who also is very considerate and open to other people's needs and situations and their problems. And so through early marriage, it was a lot of like just helping our neighbors and things like that. I had, before marriage, I had done, actually just before we got married, I came back from a internship in Africa, doing mission internship there.
Wow.
And kind of came back like, I'm not sure I'm ready to dive all in on overseas missions yet. And then we had the opportunity to start our family, and that happened so fast. So after having all our first round of babies, it was kind of like, well, maybe missions will be something we'll do when the kids are older, or teens or something like that. And so in the meantime, we just took it upon ourselves to look at our community, what things were going on around us. We did a lot of try and take care of things for our own selves, if that makes sense. So it kind of was important to what's the word? Intentionally reflect on other people and other people's lives, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was something we wanted to drill into our kids. Like we're a big
I
family.
love that.
It's hard. Like sometimes we get very within ourselves, within our own home and within our own issues and all of that. So always so important to keep things in perspective and look outside of ourselves. So we started doing missions in the Dominican Republic in 2017 is when we partnered, and I think we went with them the first time in 2018. And they have just been amazing, such an amazing organization. It's called Go Ministries, and they have a school there, they have a medical center, they have a sponsorship program for kids. So we have gotten to sponsor, I think, 9 kids now.
So cool.
Yeah.
And you're able to, when you go down there, you're able to meet with those kids and like see their families and connect with
Yes,
them as well.
that is one of the best parts about sponsoring with an organization that you work with. So yes, I've always had dreams of taking all of the kids down there and then getting to meet up with all the kids that we have got to meet over the years or partner with. And so that grew in our hearts and in our family. My kids had passion for learning Spanish and just getting to travel and those kinds of things. So over this last year, we actually, instead of the Dominican, we actually ended up heading to Guatemala, which was new for us. And we got to take my 3 oldest and my baby on that trip. Was, again, it's like one of the biggest things is that going on especially short-term mission trips can just set your heart on fire for that community and for those people who are living in an impoverished situation. And one of the first things that we learned when doing missions was the importance of taking that fire and bringing it back home with you, because you're put in a place, you're in a community, you have neighbors, and that's your space and your people at this time. And so we just try to make an effort to take that excitement to like really be impactful and bring it back home with us, no matter where it is where we're living or who our neighbors are, which church we're involved with. So I think I've really enjoyed watching our kids learn to serve around them and serve each other. I think it starts in your home, obviously. So
that's amazing. And that's something you can't really teach. Like as much as you want to teach your children that, you almost have to experience that, and you can't just teach it. That is amazing. I've heard other people say the same thing about after they go on a mission trip, they come back and they look at their surroundings differently, and they just feel like everything is so excessive and just, we are so privileged here. And they didn't see that before they left.
Yeah, it is. There's a whole culture shock situation that kind of happens. And I think we've gotten to work with some people who really made it important to them for us to kind of decompress about those things before we go and just kind of help mentally wrap our head around what to do with that when you are looking at your own community when you come home, and really just being intentional about not letting it fade, because it does. You just go back to life and you forget what's going on around you. So
what would you say to a family who wants to go on a mission trip, either with their spouse or with their family like you did? How do they get started in doing that? And how would you pick a location, and how do you even go about doing that?
Yeah, I think the most accurate answer is to take it to God and be willing, be open-hearted and willing. I think a lot of times it's more of a mental mindset situation where we go, well, I can't do that. And that was our answer, honestly, when we had 7 little kids. We're just going, we can't do that right now. We'll do it later in life. And God said, yes, you can. Yeah, you can. Let me show you how. And he put people in our life, and he, once we took the steps of going, okay, I'm willing, I have no idea how we'll do this or where we'll end up, then, but we just were willing. And so I think that's step 1, is just being willing. And then step 2 is looking at what resources you already have, what skills you have. If you are just willing and you're willing to go love on people and pray over people and hang out with people, or maybe you are great at children's ministry and you like putting on like VBS or something like that. Most organizations that we have worked with all have such great resources for prepping for trips like this in such a short time. It's best to be kind of prepared about what things are going to happen. So you don't have to worry about going into it just like, I have no idea how it's going to go or what's going to happen. They're great at providing resources so you are trained and ready before you go. And then the other biggest hang up is always money. People are always worried that they don't have enough money to go on trips like this because there is costs into traveling and for an organization to provide for your needs while you're there, transport and housing and all those things. So my answer has been just that if God could do it for us every time, I know that he could do it for anybody. And there have been times where we just like, okay, I do not have the money. I will say yes. I will be willing to go. Like I'm signed up. And this is all just contingent on God providing funds and just having people pour out on our behalf and getting to partner with us. And there's so much that people get to do and get to be involved in just by financially giving and supporting people who are willing to go on missions. There's so many people who look at a family and they're like, oh, you're crazy for taking kids to other countries. But just like that, there are a ton of people who are going, I see the value in this. I can see how amazing it is. I want to be a part of that, but I can't go right now. And so they will jump in financially and help support you or support you in prayer and encouragement.
Yeah.
So I think those are my biggest points of advice is just be willing and trust that God has got it if he's going to put you in the place and in the right place and in the right time. He's also going to provide everything you need to get there and to get back. So go for it. That's my advice.
I love it. I think with missions and even just with a large family, the same kind of mentality is true. You can make excuses and talk yourself out of these things, and everyone would understand. They'd be like, yeah, of course you can't go on a mission trip. You have all these little kids, of course. Or you can find the why or find the reason or find the the opposite of the excuse and go for it and make it happen either way. So I love that you guys have just kind of had that heart of just being open to whatever God has in store for you guys. I think that's really, really cool.
It's
Yeah.
been really fun, honestly. It's just such an adventure, giving everything to God and just going, okay, God, take us wherever you want. Like we're willing, let's do it. We're just as happy to sit here at home with our crew and do fun things here too. And if that's not the plan, God wants to take us all over the world, we're happy with that. And we know that these things are all so beneficial for the core of who my little people are and how they see the world. And I'm just so glad I get to do life with them rather than wait for them to move on with their lives and then I can go do my life, that kind of thing, which I think is kind of some of the perspective a lot of people have when it comes to kids, that they have to wait until their kids are done doing life with them and then they can have different lives.
Right.
But I say do life with your kids, have fun, go on adventures, do all the dreams you had, but do it with your kids.
Right. I like that. I agree. I think that's great. So I know I get asked this a lot on my page, but for you, it could be applied to missions as well. But what's next for your family? I mean, what things do we have to look forward to in the next upcoming years as far as mission trips? And I know your page is the Sellers Dozen, and now here you are. You are more than a dozen in number, but your children are going to be a dozen. What's next as far as, I mean, people, do they ask you, are you done? Are you going to have more? And then also for mission trips, what's next for mission trips?
Oh yeah. So yeah, people ask us all the time. It is, I feel like it's funny, the more kids we have, like the more open we are to having more kids, I feel like.
Isn't that funny?
It's just really, it's just when you watch God prove to you that he's got you and he's taking care of your family and he's, fortunately our pregnancies have been really healthy. Our children are so healthy and so amazing and they're growing well. And all of those things would be impactful on our family size. And if we were facing harder situations, and there are so many families who are facing harder situations and they're just going, this is the max of my family size because of that. And I completely understand that. So we are thankful that our family is growing the way it is and that everybody's big, strong, and healthy. They all have desires to travel the world. That would be another factor for kids are like, we hate traveling. Then that would probably slow us down a little bit because there are people too, we want to accommodate their feelings and their wants and dreams. And
So the funny part is we are not big planners. We are very like, okay, we'll just see what happens kind of situation. So when it comes to mission trips, each of our mission trips have been relatively like on the fly. Like they've been very,
That's funny.
Guatemala was like, okay, this opportunity has come up, but it's not like a go yet. And then by the time it was a go, we had like a matter of weeks to like get everything together. And
Wow.
fortunately, God was putting those things on our heart beforehand. We actually just kind of proactively got our older kids' passports adjusted. We just had some updates to do and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
thankfully, everything lined out perfectly.
Cool.
And when we watch God do that over and over and over, it removes a lot of the like stress and pressure of those kinds of big dreams. So our dreams are to keep growing and to keep traveling and to keep doing missions with our kids. And that's kind of the plan. And we're just gonna
Beautiful. I love
see
it.
what God does. Yeah.
Right. And I know your followers love that too, just that spirit of kind of, we haven't planned this, but here it is, and we're excited about it, for trips and
Yes.
everything. That's so cool. Chelsea, what else do you have? I've been asking so many questions. I could keep going. Oh, did we lose Chelsea?
We lost her.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I can keep going. So what I know the answer to this because we visited, but like what do you do with your children to create that heart of loving others and giving back and just having that heart of love for others and just wanting like that social impact desire? How do you facilitate that in your children?
So I think the biggest answer is just to model it. It is, and what's genuinely important to our hearts. When we see people, whatever situation they're in, they are a person and they have a life and they have dreams and hopes and love. And so when you start looking at other people and other people's problems um, as more of a how could their problems be my problems? How could this load that this person is carrying that's so heavy, how is there a way that it could be shared? And would that be good and safe and reasonable? If it is, what could we do to help? When we first moved out here to the city we live in now, we were seeing homeless people for the first time, and my kids were shocked. And so it was a matter of like just stopping and talking to people, just rolling your window down and saying hi. And then for a while, the most people we saw was on Sunday. So after church, we would bring sandwiches with us. And whenever we'd stop and see somebody, we'd hand them some lunch and snacks and sandwiches that we had made. And just that always gave us opportunity for my kids,
Cool.
to talk about who these people are, that they are in a situation and the situation's hard. Sometimes that's because of our life choices, and sometimes that's because the world is just hard sometimes. And we never want to be looked at as our biggest mistake. We want to be looked at as the people that we are today. And just sharing that with them and just constantly reminding them that there are, we'll have nights sometimes that it's really, really, really cold, and we'll be intentional about thinking about, we know that there are people on the streets tonight. And so though there's nothing we can necessarily do in our own home right now, we can pray over them and think about them and be aware of them. And that all kind of takes things from, especially for kids, it takes them from their focus of their favorite movie or what video game they're going to play tomorrow, or who got the last candy bar. And it kind of like, it just reminds them to keep their brains broad and their hearts broad, their interests much bigger than just themselves. And I think we have learned, my husband and I have learned over the years, just kind of navigating that line, because obviously you can't help everybody and not everybody wants help. So just being willing, again, I guess it kind of comes back to that, just being willing and showing our kids how to be willing and how to recognize social situations, not as their problem, but kind of as, can I be a good, positive and helpful light in this space, whatever space they're in our own home or in public or on missions or any of that. So
I love it. I love it. Chelsea, I've been talking for all this time. Do you have any questions for Amanda? Because I could just keep firing them away.
Yeah, sorry, I I had chaos ensuing on the stairs. The kids
Okay.
are very new to stairs, so they're going up and you can't see it, but they were going up and down that, so we had some trouble.
You need
So
to
I
baby
stepped
proof.
away. Yeah, I know. I need baby gates or something. Um, but yeah, so I just think that that's so awesome that even if you really can't make it on a mission trip, that I love your perspective of taking and using any opportunity possible to be able to teach your kids how, to have a positive impact, whether it be through just making sandwiches and being thoughtful and having the forethought of understanding that you're going to be like seeing people that are homeless in certain situations, because we're seeing quite a bit of that. I know in my old state of California, we were dealing with that a lot too. So, and it would get hot and it would get cold. So remembering extra jackets, donating, those kinds of things. I love that, that it's not just mission trips, that it's like everything and you can incorporate that in your whole life. So I love that outlook. And remembering, when you are cold, because it's easy to get caught up in your everyday. So I know that you have had a lot of experience when it comes to traveling, and I hate to admit it, but I have a lot of difficulty of traveling with such little kids, and I don't have the additional aspect of going internationally. How, from a pragmatic standpoint, how do you actually do that with children? And I know that you were talking about it before a little bit about kind of helping them understand what they're going to be walking into and coming back, because I remember when I was in, my stepmom's Ethiopian, so we went to Ethiopia and did mission trips when I was like 15, and that was definitely, yeah, so it was so much of a culture shock. And I'm just curious how you have traveled with the kids and you do like actually pragmatically, like how. And then also I wanted you to elaborate on mentally preparing the kids for like what they're going to see. Of course, we want them to remember, right, and have that heart and that fire. But I am curious, how do you kind of deal with that, the mental pressures of even just traveling in general, like for the kids too? I mean, so please elaborate on that. I'm so curious.
Well, I think overall kids are so resilient, and whatever situation they're in is just normal to them. Like that's just how kids are. And I think that part of the situation is how to make it a big deal without making it like overly a big deal. So talking specifically about how I want my kids to retain things from the trips. I don't want it to just be like, oh yeah, we went to, the Dominican one time. I want it to be just to genuinely affect their heart. And I want them to receive things from it that help them grow. Because otherwise it would be just as, especially because we do other trips that aren't mission related. So I don't want it to kind of blend in with all those memories that are just, oh, those are just travel memories or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think my biggest act towards preparing my kids is just practice. And so we'll practice a lot of things in a lot of ways that are outside of the scenario. Even just things like on a small scale, for example, if we're going to be sitting for a long time, we will intentionally practice in the time leading up to that. We'll go on small little trips here and there. Or we'll I remember when the kids were little and I was trying to get them to practice sitting for church. I want my kids to enjoy their church time, but they also kind of have to be able to keep that time in control. So we would have little sessions and just in our living room, nothing church related, but just like maybe we'd listen to a song. We're just like, okay, this is the time for us to just sit for 10 minutes. We're just going to sit. We're just going to be still. We're going to, not be entertained, because obviously they can sit still if they're got a tablet or a TV or something that's fully entertained. And we just practice that skill. And then we would up the time a little bit. And then it'd be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes until they could just sit comfortably for an extended amount of time. And we felt so much more prepared for like Sunday church or something like that. So the trips are a lot of the same thing. We're making sure we're going to the bathroom, we're communicating, I'm also not big on making sure the kids are entertained every time we're in a vehicle, even for short drives and things like that. I think probably my most said phrase on the trip was like, my road trip from here to California and back across east to west to back to East Coast.
Wow.
It was a lot of driving.
Yeah.
My most said phrase on that trip was probably like, if you don't look out your window, you're grounded, but like in a playful way, like legit.
Yeah.
Just like be present, see your space,
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. We
Yeah.
still say it today, even just driving around and seeing the trees and stuff like that as the fall leaves come in. And those things are all just practice of like, we are being intentional about the people around us. We're being intentional about what we see and how we interact when we're getting out. We know we're coming into we're gonna have to stop at the gas station. We have to. We're gonna have to use the bathroom. What are you gonna need? Are you gonna need shoes? Are you gonna need, where is your stuff? And so just a lot of practice and knowing that no matter how much you've practiced, it's still not going to flow perfectly.
Right.
And I felt like it was right about the time we were heading home again on our longest road trip that they finally kind of seemed to get into a system of like, like we could do a bathroom stop and it only took 20 minutes instead of an hour or something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think the biggest thing outside of practice is just flexibility as a parent. Just knowing that we're here to make memories. We're not here to like meet schedules and deadlines and things like that. Of course, when you're flying to another country, it's a little bit different. There are some more rigid rules set. But in those cases, it's a lot more of taking kids that are age appropriate, who can handle those types of like higher tense situations of keeping up with a passport or something like that. And just having extra hands for the little ones who aren't capable of managing themselves in those ways. So we have been blessed to always have somebody who was either one of our older kids or on all of our longer road trips. Now I think about it, we've had another adult who is willing to come with us, which one is just a fun family trip, but two, it's an extra set of hands and eyes and ears. Really, really helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well,
I
let's
needed
see
that preparation. I needed that preparation tips and tricks before this move and before my big trip with the toddlers. 9 months pregnant. That was a rough one. That was a dumb mistake on my part. I'm sorry. It really was not. I did not.
It's a fun memory to laugh about, though.
Yeah. Karla was like, "You're doing what? 9 months pregnant?"
Like, good luck.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that God brought you into our lives and that we've been able to know you. You are such an inspiration, and it's so refreshing to remember that you can make an impact every day of your life. That's one thing that I love about visiting with you every time we visit. So I'm proud of you, and I'm so happy we got to meet.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so blessed also. You guys are just such phenomenal women. You're such a great example and wonderful moms, and I love knowing you and sharing heart with you and just getting to do business together now. This has been so much fun.
Absolutely. Cool. And we will link your super cute clothing collections in our description for this podcast. And I know we could sit here and talk for another hour. You're so interesting to visit with, but I know you have lots of babies to tend to. So we will end, and then we will ask Amanda and Chris maybe to join us for a future podcast for sure. Well, Thank you for joining us, and thank you for tuning into this episode of Good Morning Mama.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye.